Grace and peace to you, champions of destiny. This is 15 February 26, Sunday 1, Atomic Prayer. Kingdom positioning, sit in your seat of influence. Today is not ordinary. This is a divine appointment. This is a strategic recalibration in the spirit. Before you were formed in your mother's womb, heaven had already assigned you a seat, an ordained position of authority, relevance, and impact. But the enemy has tried to distract you, delay you, and disqualify you. He has whispered, "You're not ready. You're not worthy. You don't belong there." But today, we silence every counterfeit voice. This Sunday, we step into kingdom positioning. We are not begging for influence. We are aligning for it. We are not chasing platforms. We are preparing for thrones. Influence in the kingdom is not about ego. It is about stewardship. It is about understanding that where God places you, He intends for you to legislate, to innovate, and to dominate in righteousness. Some of you have been standing outside doors that were already unlocked. Some of you have been shrinking in rooms you were called to command. But today, by the authority of heaven, we break the spirit of intimidation. We dismantle every mindset of inferiority. We uproot every pattern of self-sabotage. You were not called to spectate. You were called to occupy. You were not an afterthought. You were pre-approved by providence. This atomic prayer will reposition you mentally, spiritually, and strategically. We are commanding alignment between your calling and your confidence. We are declaring that your name will be mentioned in rooms you haven't entered yet. That favor will locate you. That wisdom will distinguish you. That grace will sustain you in high places. Today, we decree, I will not forfeit my seat. I will not vacate my assignment. I will sit where God has seated me. So wherever you are, lift your hands, open your heart, and prepare your spirit, because this prayer is about to activate dormant authority, awaken bold faith, and establish you firmly in your seat of influence. This is your moment. This is your positioning. This is your kingdom seat. Divine authorization is the invisible signature of heaven upon your life. Before you ever applied for the position, before your name was ever mentioned in a room, before you accumulated credentials or connections, God had already stamped approval on your assignment. You were not voted into destiny by people. You were validated into purpose by God. That means your seat of influence is not accidental, not political, not circumstantial. It is assigned. And what God assigns, no system can permanently deny. Many people spend years trying to qualify for what they have already been authorized to carry. They rehearse their weaknesses, compare their journey to others, and wait for external affirmation before they dare to sit where God has told them to stand. But divine authorization does not originate in public applause. It originates in private encounter. When heaven authorizes you, it does not consult your insecurity. It does not poll your critics. It does not wait for consensus. It releases a mandate. Authorization is different from ambition. Ambition says, I want the seat. Authorization says, the seat has your name on it. Ambition strives. Authorization aligns. When you understand that you are divinely authorized, you stop chasing validation and start embodying responsibility. You no longer enter rooms hoping to be accepted. You enter knowing you carry something necessary. That confidence is not arrogance. It is agreement with heaven. There are battles you have faced that were not random. They were resistance against your authorization. The pressure, the betrayal, the delays. These were attempts to make you question what God had already approved. The enemy does not fight what is irrelevant. He contests what carries impact. If you have experienced unusual resistance, it may be because you carry unusual authorization. The warfare around your life is evidence of the weight on your calling. Divine authorization means you do not need to shrink to fit environments that were designed to expand because of you. You are not called to blend in. You are called to bring definition. When God assigns you to a sphere, whether family, business, ministry, creativity, leadership, or culture, He deposits the grace necessary to function there effectively. You are not underqualified. You are anointed for that space. The seat may feel larger than your experience, but it is not larger than your grace. Sometimes the greatest barrier to stepping into your seat is not opposition from others, but hesitation within yourself. You may feel as though you need one more degree, one more confirmation, one more prophetic word, but authorization is not something you accumulate. It is something you accept. The moment you agree with what God has spoken, you activate the authority attached to it. Doubt delays what faith can accelerate. Divine authorization also requires maturity. A seat of influence is not a throne for ego. It is a platform for service. When heaven approves you, it entrusts you. Influence in the kingdom is stewardship. It means you are responsible for the atmosphere you shape, the decisions you make, and the lives you impact. Authorization carries accountability. You cannot misuse what was assigned for purpose and expect it to prosper. When you understand that your seat is assigned, you protect it with integrity. There will be moments when you look around and see people who appear more experienced, more polished, more connected. In those moments, remember that divine authorization is not a comparison contest. God does not replicate assignments. He custom designs them. Your voice carries a frequency that cannot be duplicated. Your perspective holds insights shaped by your journey. The trials you survived qualified you in ways formal training never could. What you endured has become part of your authorization. To be divinely authorized means you stop asking, "Do I belong here?" and start asking, "How do I serve effectively here?" It shifts your posture from insecurity to intentionality. You are no longer trying to prove yourself. You are focused on fulfilling purpose. When you know you are assigned, you operate with clarity. You speak with conviction. You decide with courage. Even when others question you, you remain anchored because your approval did not originate with them. Authorization also breaks the fear of rejection. If God assigned you to the seat, no rejection can revoke that assignment. People may misunderstand you. They may overlook you. They may even attempt to replace you. But what is authorized by heaven cannot be permanently displaced by human opinion. Delay does not mean denial. Silence does not mean cancellation. If God has assigned it, it will manifest in its appointed time. There is a difference between being present in a room and occupying your seat in that room. Presence is physical. Occupation is spiritual and mental. Divine authorization empowers you to occupy fully. It allows you to contribute boldly, to initiate ideas, to set standards. You are not there by accident. You are there because your perspective matters. Your voice carries weight. Your decisions influence outcomes. When you internalize that truth, you move differently. Every seat of influence has resistance attached to it. But resistance is not a signal to retreat. It is confirmation that the seat carries significance. If it were insignificant, it would not be contested. When you feel the pressure, remind yourself that authorization precedes manifestation. Just because the seat is not yet publicly recognized does not mean it is not spiritually established. Heaven establishes before earth announces. Divine authorization demands that you silence internal narratives that contradict your calling. You cannot sit confidently while rehearsing thoughts of inadequacy. You cannot lead effectively while doubting your legitimacy. What God has approved, you must no longer question. Agreement with heaven stabilizes your posture. It eliminates the need for constant reassurance. It anchors you in purpose. You were pre-approved by heaven. Before your first success, and before your first failure. Your assignment was sealed. Your seat of influence is not an accident of timing. It is a product of divine intention. The doors that open for you are not coincidences. They are confirmations. The opportunities that find you are not random. They are responses to authorization already written over your life. When you understand this, you stop hesitating at thresholds and start walking through them with authority. You stop shrinking in spaces that were prepared for you. You stop apologizing for occupying territory that God Himself assigned. You recognize that your name is written on that seat. And you begin to sit with the confidence of someone who knows they were invited by the King Himself. Sheet. Mental repositioning is the internal shift that must occur before any external elevation can be sustained. Before you sit in authority publicly, you must believe it privately. Influence is first a mindset before it becomes a manifestation. If your thoughts are still anchored in limitation, you will sabotage the very doors you prayed to open. God can elevate your platform, but if your mind remains in a posture of doubt, you will feel like an imposter in a seat that was divinely assigned. The battlefield of influence is the mind. Long before you are resisted by people, you are resisted by thoughts. Thoughts that whisper you are not ready. Thoughts that replay past failures. Thoughts that magnify your weaknesses and minimize your growth. Mental repositioning requires that you confront those narratives and dismantle them with truth. You cannot occupy a seat of authority while entertaining a mindset of inferiority. Many people are physically present in rooms of opportunity, but mentally absent from confidence. They show up, but internally they shrink. They speak, but their voice trembles with self-doubt. They are promoted, yet they question whether they deserve it. That is not humility. That is misalignment. True humility acknowledges that the grace you carry is not self-generated, but it does not deny that you carry it. Mental repositioning means you stop confusing insecurity with modesty. Your mind must be retrained to see yourself as heaven sees you. If God has positioned you for influence, then your internal dialogue must reflect that positioning. You cannot continually say, "I am not capable," when God says you are equipped. You cannot rehearse disqualification when heaven has already issued authorization. The mind must come into agreement with the assignment. Mental repositioning also involves releasing outdated identities. There are labels that were attached to you in seasons of immaturity, struggle, or obscurity. Perhaps you were once overlooked, underestimated, or dismissed. But you cannot carry yesterday's identity into tomorrow's seat. Growth demands that you shed the narratives that no longer align with who you are becoming. You are not who you were when you started. The challenges you survived refined you. The lessons you learned matured you. The resilience you built strengthened you. Sometimes the greatest obstacle to stepping into influence is familiarity. People who have known you in one season may struggle to accept you in another, but mental repositioning requires that you do not anchor your identity to other people's memory of you. Just because they met you in your process does not mean they get to define your progression. Your growth is not limited by their perception. Private belief fuels public authority. When you believe deeply that you are assigned, your posture changes. You no longer over-explain yourself. You no longer overcompensate to earn approval. You no longer apologize for taking up space. You operate with calm confidence because your assurance is internal, not dependent on applause. Applause is temporary. Alignment is sustaining. Mental repositioning requires discipline. It is not a one-time decision. It is a daily practice. Every day you must choose thoughts that reinforce your calling rather than undermine it. You must monitor your internal language. Are you speaking defeat over yourself? Are you magnifying obstacles? Are you minimizing your capacity? The words you rehearse internally shape the reality you experience externally. A misaligned mind will create unnecessary resistance. There are moments when you will step into environments that stretch you beyond comfort. In those moments, your mind will attempt to retreat to familiarity. It will try to convince you that you were safer when you were unseen. But comfort is not the same as calling. Growth requires discomfort. Influence requires expansion. Mental repositioning teaches you to interpret stretching as preparation rather than punishment. You cannot sit in authority publicly if you are constantly seeking permission internally. When you understand that your seat is assigned by God, you stop waiting for unanimous agreement from others. You stop polling the room before making decisions. You recognize that leadership requires conviction. Conviction is born in private belief. If you do not believe in your assignment when no one is watching, you will compromise it when everyone is watching. Mental repositioning also involves embracing responsibility. Influence is not simply a privilege, it is a weight. When your mind is properly aligned, you do not view authority as an opportunity for validation, but as a mandate for service. You begin to ask, how can I steward this well? Rather than, do I deserve this? The shift from insecurity to stewardship is powerful. It moves you from self-focus to impact. Your history may have trained you to think small. Perhaps you were taught to stay quiet, to avoid visibility, to never outshine others. But your future demands expansion. You cannot shrink and lead simultaneously. You cannot hide and influence at the same time. Mental repositioning gives you permission to rise without guilt. It allows you to excel without apology. It empowers you to be visible without fear. There is a version of you that already occupies your seat confidently. That version speaks with clarity. That version decides with wisdom. That version leads with integrity. Mental repositioning is the process of aligning your present thoughts with that future reality. You are not pretending to be someone else. You are growing into who you were designed to become. When your mind shifts, your presence shifts. People can sense alignment. They can feel when someone is secure in their assignment. Confidence rooted in divine positioning is not loud or aggressive. It is steady. It does not need to dominate conversations to feel powerful. It carries quiet authority. That authority flows from internal agreement with heaven. Before you are recognized externally, you must recognize yourself internally as called, capable, and commissioned. If you wait for others to validate what God has already spoken, you will delay your own manifestation. Mental repositioning accelerates destiny because it removes internal resistance. It aligns belief with calling, thought with purpose, identity with assignment. You must see yourself seated before you are publicly seated. You must envision yourself leading before you are formally announced. You must accept your influence before it is widely acknowledged. What you rehearse internally prepares you for what you will handle externally. When your mind is aligned, elevation does not intimidate you. Opportunity does not overwhelm you. Responsibility does not paralyze you. You sit with stability because you already believed you belonged there long before anyone else noticed. Breaking intimidation and inferiority begins with recognizing that neither of them originated with God. They are learned responses to environments that attempted to minimize you, silence you, or overshadow you. Intimidation is the internal tremor you feel when you stand in proximity to power and forget that you carry power too. Inferiority is the quiet agreement with a lie that says you are less than, behind, or beneath. You cannot occupy your seat while shrinking in self-doubt. A shrinking posture cannot sustain a position of influence. Intimidation often disguises itself as caution. It tells you to hold back, to wait your turn, to not say too much to avoid standing out. It convinces you that visibility is dangerous and that boldness is risky. But what if the greater risk is silence? What if withholding your voice delays solutions that only you were designed to release? When you allow intimidation to dictate your posture, You betray your assignment. You are not positioned to echo what everyone else is saying. You are positioned to contribute something distinct. Inferiority feeds on comparison. It measures your beginning against someone else's middle. It highlights what you lack and ignores what you possess. It whispers that others are more articulate, more connected, but comparison is a distortion. It ignores the fact that your journey has shaped you uniquely. Your insight was forged through battles they never fought. Your resilience was built in circumstances they never endured. Your perspective is informed by experiences they never had. Inferiority cannot survive when you honor your own journey. There are rooms where the atmosphere feels heavy with status and achievement. Degrees line the walls. Titles precede introductions. Accomplishments fill conversations. In those environments, intimidation attempts to paralyze you. It makes you question your legitimacy. It amplifies your insecurities, but you must remember that your presence in that room is not accidental. If you were not meant to be there, the door would not have opened. Your seat is not charity. It is calling. Breaking intimidation requires reframing how you see authority. Authority is not something reserved for the loudest voice or the most decorated resume. True authority flows from clarity of purpose. When you know why you are there, you do not compete for attention. You contribute with intention. You do not need to dominate to feel significant. You speak when it matters. You move when it counts. You understand that your value is not diminished by someone else's brilliance. Inferiority also attaches itself to past mistakes. It replays failures as evidence that you are unworthy. It magnifies missteps and ignores growth. But mistakes are not disqualifications. They are teachers. The lessons you learned through failure refined your judgment. They sharpened your discernment. They matured your character. What once embarrassed you has now equipped you. You cannot allow a previous season of imperfection to define your present capacity. Intimidation loses power when you confront it directly. Instead of retreating from spaces that stretch you, lean into them. Instead of silencing your ideas, articulate them. Instead of assuming you are underqualified, prepare diligently and participate boldly. Courage is not the absence of fear. It is movement despite it. Every time you choose to act in alignment with your calling, you weaken the grip of intimidation. Inferiority thrives in secrecy. It grows when you internalize doubts and never challenge them. Breaking it requires intentional affirmation rooted in truth. Remind yourself of your growth. Reflect on your progress. Recall the obstacles you overcame. Evidence of your resilience is proof of your capacity. You are not starting from nothing. You are building from experience. You cannot occupy your seat while apologizing for your existence. Over-apologizing for speaking, for leading, for deciding, signals to your own mind that you are out of place. You are out of place. You are in position. When you carry yourself with grounded confidence, you recalibrate the room. People respond to the energy you project. If you project uncertainty, they will question you. If you project clarity, they will listen. Breaking intimidation also requires boundaries. Not every opinion deserves access to your confidence. Some voices are rooted in their own insecurity. If you internalize every critique without discernment, you will destabilize yourself. Learn to filter feedback. Receive what refines you and release what diminishes you. Your identity cannot be constructed from fluctuating opinions. Inferiority distorts perception. It causes you to underestimate your impact. You may not realize how your words inspire, how your leadership stabilizes, how your presence shifts atmospheres. Influence is not always loud. Sometimes it is subtle, yet profound. Do not measure your effectiveness solely by visible applause. Some of the most powerful shifts happen quietly. There will be moments when you feel the urge to shrink to make others comfortable. to downplay your success, to dilute your brilliance, to soften your strength. But shrinking does not serve anyone. It does not empower others. It models limitation. When you stand fully in your capacity, you give others permission to do the same. Confidence is contagious. Breaking intimidation and inferiority is a continuous process. Each new level of influence introduces new pressures. New rooms will challenge you in different ways, but as you grow, so should your self-perception. The version of you that once felt intimidated by visibility is not the same version stepping into authority now. You have evolved. You have learned. You have matured. When you refuse to shrink, you step into alignment. You speak with steadiness. You decide with conviction. You lead without constantly second-guessing yourself. You understand that confidence rooted in divine assignment is not arrogance. It is obedience. It is agreeing with what God has spoken over your life. It is honoring the grace entrusted to you. You cannot occupy your seat while entertaining thoughts that undermine your legitimacy. You cannot lead effectively while internally bowing to fear. Breaking intimidation means standing upright in your identity. Breaking inferiority means seeing yourself through the lens of purpose rather than past limitation. When you do, your posture changes. Your voice stabilizes. Your presence strengthens. You stop shrinking in rooms you were called to shape. You stop hesitating in moments you were prepared to handle. You begin to sit fully, speak boldly, and move decisively in the authority that was always yours. Stewardship of influence begins with understanding that influence is not about status. It is about responsibility and impact. In the kingdom, influence is never granted for ego elevation. It is entrusted for purpose fulfillment. When God positions you in a seat of authority, visibility, or leadership, He is not simply increasing your profile. He is increasing your accountability. Influence is a trust. It is a sacred assignment that requires maturity, integrity, and intentionality. Many people desire influence because they associate it with recognition, power, and access. But true kingdom influence is measured not by how many people know your name, but by how many lives are transformed because you occupied your seat faithfully. It is not about being admired. It is about being effective. When your perspective shifts from status to stewardship, your priorities change. You no longer ask, "How can this benefit me?" You begin to ask, "How can I serve well here?" Stewardship means managing what has been entrusted to you with wisdom. If you have been given a platform, your words matter. If you have been given authority, your decisions matter. If you have been given visibility, your example matters. Influence amplifies everything, your strengths and your weaknesses. That is why character must grow alongside calling. Without character, influence becomes dangerous. With character, influence becomes transformative. Influence is not limited to public platforms. It exists in families, workplaces, ministries, communities, and relationships. Wherever your presence affects outcomes, you have influence. Stewardship in those spaces requires consistency. It requires you to show up with integrity even when no one is applauding. It requires you to lead with humility even when you have the power to dominate. Kingdom stewardship is not about control. It is about cultivation. When you understand that influence is stewardship, you become intentional about the atmosphere you create. You recognize that your attitude sets tone. Your discipline sets standard. Your reactions model behavior. People watch how you handle pressure. They observe how you respond to conflict. They learn from how you navigate success and failure. Whether you intend to or not, you are teaching through your example. Stewardship demands awareness of that reality. Responsibility accompanies every level of influence. As your reach expands, so does your obligation to remain grounded. It is easy to become intoxicated by recognition. Compliments can subtly shift your focus from purpose to performance. But stewardship keeps you anchored. It reminds you that the seat you occupy was assigned by God, not achieved solely by your effort. Gratitude protects your heart from pride. Impact is the true evidence of effective stewardship. Influence that does not produce positive transformation is merely attention. Attention fades. Impact endures. When you steward your influence well, you empower others. You create opportunities. You release wisdom. You strengthen systems. You build environments where others can thrive. That is kingdom impact. It multiplies beyond your immediate reach. Stewardship also requires discernment. Not every opportunity to expand influence aligns with your assignment. Just because you can step into certain spaces does not mean you should. Influence must be aligned with purpose. When you pursue expansion without alignment, you dilute your effectiveness. Discernment allows you to focus your energy where it will produce the greatest impact. Integrity is the backbone of stewardship. Influence without integrity eventually collapses. You cannot separate who you are in private from who you are in public. The weight of leadership exposes inconsistencies. Stewardship demands that your private life supports your public role. When your character is solid, you can withstand scrutiny. When your foundation is stable, your influence can endure seasons of testing. Responsibility also means being accountable for the outcomes of your decisions. Influence gives you the power to shape direction. With that power comes the necessity of wisdom. Decisions made impulsively can affect many. Decisions made prayerfully can bless many. Stewardship slows you down enough to consider consequences. It reminds you that your choices ripple beyond you. True kingdom influence elevates others rather than overshadowing them. It creates space for emerging voices. It mentors, equips, and empowers. If your influence only highlights you, it is incomplete. Stewardship seeks multiplication. It invests in people. It develops capacity in others. It understands that legacy is built through what you reproduce, not merely what you accomplish personally. When you see influence as responsibility, you guard it carefully. You protect your credibility. You avoid compromising situations. You measure your words. You remain teachable. Teachability is essential for sustained influence. The moment you believe you have nothing left to learn, your growth stagnates. Stewardship keeps you open to correction and refinement. Impact is not always immediate. Sometimes the seeds you plant through your influence take time to grow. Stewardship requires patience. It requires faithfulness even when results are not instantly visible. You may not see the full effect of your leadership today, but consistency compounds over time. Small, faithful decisions accumulate into significant transformation. There will be pressures that accompany influence. Expectations increase. Criticism intensifies. Visibility exposes you to scrutiny. Stewardship equips you to handle those pressures with grace. When your motive is service rather than status, criticism does not destabilize you as easily. You evaluate feedback, adjust where necessary, and remain focused on purpose. Influence is a tool. Like any tool, it can build or it can destroy. The difference lies in stewardship. When you handle it with humility, integrity, and wisdom, it becomes a force for good. When mishandled, it can cause harm. Recognizing this reality keeps you vigilant. It reminds you that your seat of influence is not a reward to indulge, but a responsibility to manage. You are positioned not merely to occupy space, but to shape it. Not merely to hold authority, but to exercise it righteously. Not merely to be seen, but to serve effectively. When you embrace stewardship, your influence transcends ego. It becomes a channel through which solutions flow, hope rises, and systems improve. Responsibility anchors you. Impact motivates you. And your seat of influence becomes a place where purpose is executed with excellence, where integrity sustains authority, and where every decision reflects an awareness that what you carry was entrusted for more than personal elevation. That date. Strategic alignment is the divine synchronization of your character, your calling, and your confidence. When these three dimensions come into harmony, doors open without struggle. Misalignment creates friction. Alignment creates flow. You can be gifted but lack character, and your influence will be unstable. You can have strong character but lack confidence, and your impact will be minimized. You can be confident but unclear about your calling, and your energy will be scattered. But when character, calling, and confidence align, you become unstoppable in purpose. Character is the foundation. It is who you are when no one is watching. It is the integrity that governs your decisions when shortcuts present themselves. Without character, elevation becomes dangerous. Influence magnifies what is already within you. If integrity is weak, exposure will reveal it. Strategic alignment begins by strengthening your inner life. It requires honesty, discipline, humility, and consistency. It demands that your private values support your public role. Calling is your divine assignment. It is the problem you are designed to solve, the space you are meant to influence, the sphere where your gifts are most effective. Many people struggle because they are active but not aligned. They are busy but not purposeful. They pursue opportunities that look impressive but are disconnected from their assignment. Strategic alignment requires clarity. It asks you to identify where you are most graced to function. When you operate within your calling, there's a sense of rightness, even when challenges arise. Confidence is the bridge between character and calling. It is the assurance that you can execute what you have been assigned. Confidence is not arrogance. It is trust in the grace that equips you. When confidence is absent, hesitation replaces action. When confidence is inflated without character, recklessness replaces wisdom. But when confidence is rooted in character and aligned with calling, it produces bold yet measured movement. Misalignment often reveals itself through exhaustion. When you are operating outside of your calling, you may achieve results, but they drain you rather than fulfill you. When your character is compromised, you expend energy maintaining appearances rather than pursuing purpose. When your confidence is shaky, you overwork to prove yourself. Strategic alignment eliminates unnecessary strain. It channels your energy toward what truly matters. Doors open without struggle when alignment is present, because alignment attracts favor. When your character is trustworthy, people are willing to partner with you. When your calling is clear, opportunities find you. When your confidence is steady, you are prepared to step through doors without shrinking. You no longer chase every possibility. You discern which doors are aligned and which are distractions. Character alignment means your values guide your ambition. You refuse opportunities that require you to compromise integrity. You choose long-term credibility over short-term gain. You understand that sustaining influence is more important than rapid elevation. When your character is solid, you can handle growth without losing yourself. Calling alignment means you focus on your assignment rather than comparing it to someone else's. You recognize that success is not imitation. It is fulfillment of design. When you are aligned with your calling, you are not threatened by others operating in theirs. Collaboration replaces competition. You celebrate others without feeling diminished. Confidence alignment means your self-perception matches your preparation. You do not downplay your growth, nor do you exaggerate your readiness. You evaluate yourself honestly. You strengthen weak areas. You refine your skills, then you move forward decisively. Confidence aligned with preparation produces excellence. Strategic alignment also involves timing. Even when character, calling, and confidence are strong, timing must be discerned. There are seasons of preparation and seasons of manifestation. If you attempt to force a door before you are aligned internally, you create unnecessary struggle. But when alignment is complete, doors open naturally because you are ready to handle what lies beyond them. Alignment reduces internal conflict. When your actions reflect your values, you experience peace. When your work reflects your calling, you experience fulfillment. When your mindset reflects your capability, you experience boldness. Internal harmony produces external effectiveness. You are no longer divided within yourself. There are moments when you must pause and assess. Are your daily habits supporting your character? Are your goals aligned with your calling? Are your thoughts reinforcing your confidence? Misalignment can creep in subtly. Distractions can shift your focus. Pressure can tempt you to compromise. Strategic alignment requires regular recalibration. When alignment is present, favor accelerates you. Not because you are striving harder, but because you are positioned correctly. Right alignment reduces resistance. It places you in environments where your gifts are valued. It connects you with people who recognize your integrity. It positions you for opportunities that match your readiness. Character protects the door once it opens. Calling directs you through the right door. Confidence empowers you to walk through it without hesitation. These three elements working together create sustainable elevation. Without them, success becomes fragile. With them, influence becomes durable. Strategic alignment also enhances discernment. You become sensitive to what fits and what does not. You sense when an opportunity aligns with your assignment and when it merely flatters your ego. You prioritize depth over breadth. You build intentionally rather than impulsively. When character, calling, and confidence align, your presence carries authority. You do not need to convince people of your legitimacy. It is evident in how you speak, decide, and lead. You operate with clarity because you know who you are, what you are assigned to do, and that you are equipped to do it. Alignment is not accidental. It is cultivated. It requires self-awareness. It requires prayerful reflection. It requires courage to make adjustments. Sometimes alignment demands letting go of relationships, roles, or routines that no longer support your growth. But every release creates room for refinement. Doors that once required relentless pushing begin to open with ease when alignment is established. Struggle decreases. Momentum increases. You find yourself in spaces that match your preparation. You recognize that favor flows most freely where alignment is strongest. Character sustains you. Calling directs you. Confidence propels you. And together they position you in a place where advancement is not forced, but facilitated, where progress feels purposeful rather than pressured, and where every open door reflects the harmony of a life strategically aligned with divine intention. Occupy until manifestation is a mandate to remain steadfast in your position even before the full evidence of your authority is visible. It is the discipline of sitting in your assigned seat before applause confirms it, before results validate it, before recognition acknowledges it. Many people abandon their position too early because they mistake delay for denial. But manifestation often follows consistency. If you vacate your seat in moments of uncertainty, you interrupt the process that was designed to reveal your authority. Occupy means to take up space intentionally. It means you do not hover around your assignment hesitantly. You sit firmly. You contribute confidently. You engage actively. Occupying is not passive waiting. It is active participation. You show up prepared. You make decisions responsibly. You speak with clarity. Even when external confirmation is minimal, you remain committed internally. There will be seasons when the evidence of your influence feels invisible. You are doing the work, but results seem slow. You are making decisions, but impact appears delayed. In those moments, the temptation is to withdraw, to question whether you truly belong, to assume that silence means failure. But manifestation is often unfolding beneath the surface. Seeds germinate in hidden places before they break through the soil. Authority develops in private before it is recognized publicly. Occupying requires resilience. You must withstand the discomfort of being in position without full affirmation. You must endure moments when others question your authority. You must remain steady when outcomes are not immediate. Resilience keeps you anchored when emotions fluctuate. It prevents you from abandoning your seat due to temporary discouragement. To occupy until manifestation also means you steward your current level faithfully. If you treat your present position as insignificant, you undermine the growth required for greater responsibility. Every level prepares you for the next. Excellence in small assignments builds capacity for larger ones. Consistency in limited influence expands your readiness for broader reach. Manifestation responds to faithfulness. Legislating spiritually is part of occupation. You declare alignment before you see it. You speak clarity before confusion clears. Your words shape your environment. When you affirm your assignment consistently, you strengthen your mindset. When you articulate vision, you anchor your focus. Your language must support your positioning. Doubt-filled speech erodes confidence. Faith-filled declarations reinforce it. Occupying also demands emotional stability. There will be opinions. There will be criticism. There will be comparison. If you allow external noise to dictate your internal posture, you will become unstable. Stability is cultivated through clarity of purpose. When you know why you are there, distractions lose power. You are less reactive. You are more intentional. Manifestation is often incremental. It rarely appears in a single dramatic moment. It unfolds gradually through accumulated decisions, consistent effort, and sustained belief. If you expect constant dramatic affirmation, you may overlook subtle progress. Growth may show up as increased confidence, improved discernment, stronger relationships, or refined skill. These are signs of manifestation in motion. Occupying until manifestation requires patience. Patience is not passive endurance, it is active trust. It is continuing to operate with excellence even when results are delayed. It is refusing to let frustration dictate your performance. Impatience can lead to premature exits. It can cause you to abandon positions just before breakthrough. Patience keeps you seated long enough for alignment to become visible. Your seat is not validated by popularity. It is validated by purpose. Popularity fluctuates. Purpose endures. If you measure your authority by applause, you will feel unstable when applause fades. But if you measure it by alignment with assignment, you will remain steady regardless of external response. Occupying means you are rooted in purpose rather than reaction. Consistency is the evidence of belief. When you truly believe you are assigned to a seat, you return to it daily with commitment. You refine your skills. You strengthen your character. You expand your understanding. Even when no one is watching, you prepare as if manifestation is imminent. Preparation signals expectation. There will be moments when manifestation feels close, and moments when it feels distant. Your responsibility is not to control timing, but to maintain positioning. Timing belongs to God. Positioning belongs to you. When you handle your part faithfully, the unveiling of influence unfolds in its appointed season. Occupying also requires courage to remain visible. It is easier to retreat when progress seems slow. It is easier to blend into the background when criticism arises. But visibility is part of influence. When you stay present, you allow opportunity to recognize you. You allow growth to compound. You allow relationships to strengthen, As manifestation approaches, resistance may intensify. Opposition often increases before breakthrough. Do not interpret resistance as a sign to withdraw. It may be confirmation that your presence is impactful. Strengthen your resolve. Reaffirm your assignment. Continue to show up with excellence. Your authority becomes visible through sustained action. Decisions made consistently. Standards upheld faithfully. Vision articulated repeatedly. Over time, people begin to recognize the stability of your leadership. They trust your consistency. They rely on your clarity. Manifestation is often the cumulative effect of steadfast occupation. You were not positioned to visit your seat temporarily. You were positioned to inhabit it, to cultivate it, to develop it, to protect it. Every day you remain committed. You reinforce your legitimacy. Every time you choose courage over fear, you strengthen your influence. Every decision aligned with purpose moves you closer to visible manifestation. Occupy until manifestation means you refuse to forfeit what has been entrusted to you. You sit firmly, even when evidence is forming. You speak boldly, even when outcomes are pending. You act decisively, even when recognition is delayed. You maintain your posture of authority through uncertainty. You remain anchored through transition. You persist through silence, and in due time, what was once unseen becomes undeniable. What was once questioned becomes affirmed. And what was once internal becomes externally evident because you chose to stay seated long enough for your authority to be revealed.
Grace and peace to you on this powerful Sunday, March 15, 2026. Today is not just another day on the calendar. It is a divine moment, a prophetic appointment where heaven aligns with your purpose and God releases the next dimension of your destiny. Wherever you are watching from, I want you to prepare your heart. Quiet every distraction and position your spirit to receive what God is about to activate in your life. Because today's prayer is not ordinary. It is a prophetic declaration for supernatural advancement. There are seasons when God begins to shift things behind the scenes. Doors that once seemed locked begin to open. Opportunities that once felt distant suddenly appear within reach. And the reason is simple: heaven has already scheduled your elevation. You may have walked through trials, delays, opposition, and moments where it seemed like progress was slow, but God was never absent in the process. Every challenge was preparation. Every delay was divine alignment. Every closed door was God redirecting you toward a higher dimension of purpose. Today, we are stepping into an eyes atomic prayer for supernatural elevation. This is the moment where you stop negotiating with your limitations and begin to agree with God's promises over your life. The same God who lifted Joseph from the prison to the palace, the same God who raised David from the fields to the throne, is the God who is orchestrating your next level. Your past does not disqualify you. Your struggles do not cancel your calling. What God has spoken over your life cannot be reversed by circumstances. I want you to understand something powerful today. Elevation is not merely about position, it is about transformation. When God elevates you, He changes your mindset, your authority, and your capacity to carry greater purpose. Some of you are about to step into rooms you never imagined entering. Some of you will begin to see doors open that only God could unlock. And others will witness a sudden shift where what once required years begins to happen in months and even days. So today, as we pray this atomic prayer, enter your next level, elevation confirmed, I want you to pray with expectation. Pray with authority. Pray with the confidence that heaven is responding to every declaration you release. Because when you align your faith with the power of God's word, breakthroughs begin to manifest, barriers begin to break, and divine acceleration begins to take place. Get ready. Your next level is not a distant dream. It is a divine reality that God is confirming in this very moment. Today we pray, we declare, and we activate the supernatural elevation that God has already prepared for your life. There are moments in life when you begin to sense that something is shifting in the spiritual atmosphere around you. You may not be able to explain it fully, but deep within your spirit, there is a knowing that God is preparing to move you into something greater. What once felt stagnant begins to stir. What once felt delayed begins to accelerate. And what once looked impossible suddenly starts to look like a divine possibility. This is what happens when heaven schedules your elevation. God does not operate randomly, and he does not promote without purpose. Every season of your life is part of a divine timeline that has been carefully orchestrated by God himself. Many people think elevation happens overnight, but in the kingdom of God, elevation is always preceded by preparation. Before God raises you up, he strengthens your character. Before he gives you influence, he develops your integrity. Before he opens doors of opportunity, he teaches you how to steward what is already in your hands. The process may feel long, the waiting may feel uncomfortable, and the journey may sometimes feel lonely, but God is never wasting your time. Every moment in the process is shaping you for the position he is preparing to release you into. Sometimes the very season that feels like a delay is actually divine training. When doors close, when opportunities disappear, and when people walk away, it can feel like life is moving backward. But in the kingdom of God, setbacks are often setups for supernatural promotion. God will allow you to walk through certain valleys so that when you arrive on the mountain, you will have the wisdom, humility, and spiritual maturity required to remain there. Elevation without preparation can destroy a person. But elevation after preparation positions you to carry the weight of the blessing that God is about to release. There are people listening today who have been asking God why certain things took longer than expected. You prayed, you believed, you worked, and yet it seemed like progress was slow. But what you did not see was God working behind the scenes, aligning circumstances, positioning the right people, and removing what could have sabotaged your destiny. God understands timing in ways that human understanding cannot fully comprehend. When heaven schedules your elevation, it happens at the exact moment when purpose, preparation, and opportunity converge. The truth is that elevation is not just about moving higher in status or position. In the kingdom of God, elevation is about stepping into greater responsibility, greater authority, and greater impact. When God elevates someone, he is not simply giving them recognition, he is entrusting them with influence that can change lives and transform environments. That is why God is intentional about the timing of promotion. He will not elevate you into a place where your character cannot sustain you, and he will not open doors that would ultimately destroy what he has called you to become. There are seasons when it feels like you are hidden, like your efforts are unseen and your work goes unnoticed. But God often develops his greatest leaders in hidden places. It is in those quiet seasons where your faith is tested, your endurance is strengthened, and your dependence on God becomes deeper than ever before. The hidden place is not a punishment, it is preparation. God uses those seasons to remove pride, to refine your motives, and to anchor your heart in his purpose rather than in human approval. When the time for elevation arrives, things begin to shift in ways that cannot be explained by human logic alone. Doors open that no person could have forced open. Opportunities appear that no amount of networking could have created. Favor begins to surround your life in ways that reveal the hand of God at work. What took years to build may suddenly accelerate in a matter of moments because God has decided that the season of preparation has reached its completion. Elevation also requires alignment. When God schedules your promotion, he begins to reposition your life so that you are standing exactly where you need to be when the opportunity arrives. Sometimes this alignment involves changes that feel uncomfortable. Certain relationships may shift, certain environments may change, and certain paths that once seemed certain may suddenly close. These moments are not signs that something is wrong. They are often signs that God is redirecting your steps toward a greater assignment. There is also a spiritual dimension to elevation that many people overlook. Promotion in the kingdom of God is connected to obedience, humility, and faithfulness. God watches how you steward the small things before he entrusts you with the greater things. He observes how you respond when no one is applauding you, when no one is recognizing your effort, and when the outcome of your obedience seems invisible. Those moments reveal the true condition of your heart, and they determine whether you are ready for the next level that God has prepared. When you understand that heaven has scheduled your elevation, it changes the way you view your current season. Instead of becoming discouraged by delays, you begin to recognize them as moments of preparation. Instead of comparing your journey with the journey of others, you begin to trust the unique timeline that God has established for your life. Instead of striving in your own strength to force opportunities to appear, you begin to walk in faith, knowing that what God has ordained cannot be prevented by human limitation. There is something powerful about living with the awareness that God is actively guiding your steps. It produces a confidence that does not depend on circumstances. It creates a peace that remains steady even when the path ahead seems uncertain. When you know that God is the one orchestrating your journey, you no longer feel the need to compete with others or prove your worth through constant striving. You begin to rest in the understanding that the same God who called you is the God who will position you exactly where you need to be. Some of the greatest moments of elevation in life occur when people least expect them. One moment you may feel like you are simply continuing in the ordinary rhythm of life, and the next moment God begins to open doors that change everything. The phone call you did not anticipate arrives. The opportunity you never imagined appears. The recognition that once seemed distant suddenly becomes reality. These moments are not coincidences, they are the manifestation of divine timing. Heaven's schedule does not always align with human expectations, but it always aligns with divine purpose. God sees the full picture of your life, including the connections, opportunities, and assignments that are waiting in your future. He knows the exact moment when your preparation will meet your purpose. And when that moment arrives, elevation begins to unfold in ways that confirm that God has been guiding your journey all along. Many people look at their past and see only mistakes, setbacks, disappointments, and seasons that feel wasted. They replay memories of failure and moments when things did not go according to plan. And slowly they begin to believe that those experiences define their future. But in the kingdom of God, the past is not designed to imprison you. It is designed to prepare you. Every challenge you faced, every obstacle you overcame, and even the moments where you thought you had lost something valuable were shaping you into the person capable of carrying what God has planned next. There is a powerful difference between seeing your past as a limitation and recognizing it as preparation. When you view your past as a limitation, it becomes a chain that holds your confidence captive. It whispers that you are not qualified, that you are not capable, and that your history disqualifies you from stepping into greater opportunities. But when you understand that your past was preparation, you begin to see every experience as part of a training process that God used to develop strength, wisdom, and resilience inside of you. Many of the lessons that shape your destiny cannot be learned in comfort. They are learned in moments of pressure, uncertainty, and challenge. When life becomes difficult, it forces you to grow in ways that convenience never could. It stretches your faith, sharpens your discernment, and strengthens your endurance. What once felt like hardship begins to reveal itself as a divine classroom where God was teaching you lessons that would become essential in the next season of your life. There were moments when doors closed unexpectedly, and you wondered why the opportunity disappeared just when you thought things were about to move forward. In those moments, it can feel confusing and discouraging. But God often closes certain doors because they would have led you into environments that were not aligned with your calling. Sometimes what looks like rejection is actually protection. God sees what you cannot see, and He understands which paths will strengthen your destiny and which ones would weaken it. There are also seasons where relationships change and people who once walked closely with you begin to move in different directions. This can feel painful, especially when those connections were meaningful. Yet even these moments can serve as preparation. God sometimes removes certain influences from your life because the next level requires a different atmosphere, a different mindset, and a different circle of support. The people who belong in your future will align with the direction that God is taking you. Your past also carries the gift of experience. Experience creates wisdom that cannot be obtained through theory alone. When you have walked through challenges, you begin to understand things with greater clarity. You develop the ability to recognize patterns, to avoid certain pitfalls, and to navigate complex situations with confidence. What once felt like a struggle becomes a source of insight that equips you to handle greater responsibility. One of the most powerful transformations occurs when you stop allowing your past to define your identity. Many people carry labels that were placed on them during difficult seasons. Labels such as failure, disappointment, or not good enough begin to shape how they see themselves. But God never defines you by the lowest moment of your life. He defines you by the purpose He placed within you before you were even aware of it. When God looks at your life, He does not focus on the mistakes. He sees the potential that is still unfolding. Every experience you have lived through has deposited something valuable inside of you. Some experiences develop patience, teaching you how to remain steady even when circumstances were unpredictable. Other experiences strengthened your faith, reminding you that God can sustain you even when resources appear limited. Some seasons built resilience, proving that you have the strength to stand even when everything around you feels unstable. It is easy to admire the success of others without realizing the journey that brought them there. What often appears to be sudden success is usually the result of years of preparation that took place behind the scenes. Long before recognition arrived, there were seasons of learning, adjusting, and growing through experiences that were not always easy. Your own journey follows a similar pattern. The moments that felt difficult were shaping your capacity to handle what is coming next. Preparation also involves the development of perspective. When you have walked through various seasons of life, you begin to see situations with deeper understanding. You become less reactive and more discerning. Instead of allowing emotions to control your decisions, you begin to evaluate circumstances with wisdom that was gained through experience. This kind of perspective becomes extremely valuable when you step into positions of greater influence and responsibility. Another powerful aspect of preparation is humility. Challenges often strip away the illusion that we can control everything through our own strength. They remind us of the importance of dependence on God and the value of remaining grounded even when opportunities begin to increase. Humility protects the blessings that God releases into your life because it keeps your heart aligned with purpose rather than pride. When you begin to view your past through the lens of preparation, something shifts within your mindset. Instead of feeling ashamed of certain seasons, you begin to appreciate the lessons they produced. Instead of wishing you could erase certain chapters of your story, you begin to understand how those chapters contributed to the strength you carry today. Your story becomes a testimony of growth rather than a record of limitation. The past also equips you with compassion. When you have experienced struggles yourself, you develop the ability to understand the challenges that others are facing. This compassion allows you to lead with empathy and to support others in ways that come from genuine understanding. The wisdom gained through your experiences becomes a source of encouragement for people who are walking through similar seasons. Every stage of preparation adds another layer of strength to your life. The obstacles you overcame built courage. The setbacks you navigated built perseverance. The lessons you learned built wisdom. All of these elements work together to prepare you for opportunities that require more than talent alone. They require character, maturity, and the ability to remain steady even when circumstances become complex. When you recognize that your past was preparation, it changes the way you approach the future. You no longer see yourself as someone who is held back by history. You begin to see yourself as someone who has been trained by experience and refined by challenges. The very things that once seemed like disadvantages become the qualities that equip you to move forward with confidence and strength. God has a remarkable way of transforming experiences that once felt painful into tools that empower your purpose. The moments that stretched your patience become the moments that developed your endurance. The seasons that tested your faith become the seasons that strengthened your spiritual foundation. Each experience becomes part of a larger story that reveals how preparation was quietly taking place even when progress seemed invisible. There are moments in life when it seems as though every door around you is closed. You try different paths, you pursue different opportunities, and yet the outcomes do not always align with your expectations. In those seasons, it can feel frustrating, even discouraging, because it appears as though progress is blocked. But there is a powerful truth that begins to reveal itself when God is preparing to move you into a new season. Doors that no human effort could open suddenly begin to unlock. Opportunities appear in ways that cannot be explained by strategy alone. This is what happens when divine doors begin to open. A divine door is different from an ordinary opportunity. An ordinary opportunity may come through human planning or personal effort, but a divine door carries the unmistakable signature of God's favor. It is the kind of opportunity that aligns perfectly with your purpose, your gifts, and the season that God has appointed for your life. When God opens a door, it creates access to places and possibilities that once seemed unreachable. It moves you from limitation into expansion, from waiting into movement, and from uncertainty into clarity. Many people spend years trying to force doors open through their own strength. They push, they strive, and they exhaust themselves attempting to create opportunities that are not yet aligned with their season. But divine doors do not respond to force, they respond to alignment. When your preparation meets God's timing, doors begin to open naturally, and what once required endless struggle begins to unfold with unexpected ease. Sometimes the process begins with small shifts that may seem insignificant at first. A new conversation leads to a connection you did not anticipate. An unexpected invitation places you in an environment that exposes you to new possibilities. A simple decision to remain faithful in a small responsibility brings you to the attention of someone who recognizes your potential. These moments may appear ordinary, but they often serve as the first signs that divine doors are beginning to open. Divine doors also come with a sense of alignment that goes beyond external opportunity. When God opens a door, there is often an internal confirmation that resonates within your spirit. You begin to feel a sense of clarity and peace about the direction that is unfolding, even when the opportunity requires courage or involves stepping into unfamiliar territory. There is a quiet confidence that God is guiding your steps. There are times when divine doors appear after seasons of waiting that seemed long and uncertain. During those waiting periods, it may feel as though nothing is happening, but God is often working behind the scenes, aligning people, resources, and circumstances so that when the door opens, everything is positioned exactly as it needs to be. The waiting season becomes a time of preparation where your character, your faith, and your readiness are strengthened. One of the most remarkable aspects of divine doors is that they often appear in ways that human logic could not predict. The opportunity may come from a direction you never considered. It may involve people you have never met before. It may arise in a moment when you are simply remaining faithful in your current assignment. God has a way of orchestrating circumstances so that when the door opens, it becomes clear that the outcome is the result of divine favor rather than human manipulation. Favor plays a powerful role in the opening of divine doors. Favor is the invisible influence that causes people to see potential in you, to support your vision, and to create opportunities that advance your purpose. It is not something that can be manufactured or demanded. Favor flows from God's hand, and when it rests upon your life, it creates pathways that would otherwise remain closed. Connections also become an important part of the process. God often uses people as instruments through which doors open. A single introduction can lead to a relationship that changes the direction of your journey. A conversation with the right person at the right moment can reveal opportunities that you had never considered. These connections are not random. They are part of the divine network that God is establishing to support your assignment. There are also moments when divine doors require courage. Opportunities that lead to growth often require stepping beyond the boundaries of comfort. When a door opens, it may invite you into responsibilities that feel larger than anything you have handled before. It may require trusting God in ways that stretch your faith and challenge your confidence. Yet within those moments is the invitation to grow into the person that your purpose requires. It is important to recognize that not every open door is a divine door. Discernment becomes essential when opportunities begin to increase. A divine door will align with your calling, your values, and the direction that God has been developing within your life. It will not require compromising your integrity or abandoning the principles that guide your faith. Instead, it will strengthen your ability to walk in purpose while maintaining the character that sustains long-term success. When divine doors open, they often create momentum that begins to carry your journey forward. One opportunity leads to another. One connection introduces you to another relationship. What once seemed distant begins to move closer with each step. The path ahead becomes clearer as you continue walking in obedience and faithfulness. Sometimes the opening of divine doors also brings transformation in how you see yourself. Opportunities reveal capacities that you may not have fully recognized before. They challenge you to expand your thinking, to develop new skills, and to grow into roles that require greater leadership and influence. The process becomes not only about external progress, but also about internal development. There are seasons when people wonder whether their efforts are making any difference, especially when results appear slow. But when divine doors begin to open, it often becomes evident that every moment of faithfulness contributed to the opportunity that is now appearing. The small acts of discipline, the quiet moments of perseverance, and the unseen hours of preparation all become part of the foundation that supports the new opportunities unfolding. Divine doors also carry the potential to impact others in meaningful ways. Opportunities that God opens are rarely limited to personal success alone. They often create platforms through which you can serve, inspire, and uplift the lives of people around you. The influence that comes through these doors becomes a channel through which purpose expands beyond individual achievement. As opportunities continue to appear, the importance of humility and gratitude becomes even more significant. Recognizing that every open door is the result of God's favor keeps your heart grounded and focused on the purpose behind the opportunity. It reminds you that the same God who opened the door is the one who will guide you as you walk through it and navigate the responsibilities that follow. Elevation does not begin with a change in position, it begins with a transformation in mindset. Long before circumstances shift, before doors open, and before opportunities appear, something must first change within the way you think. The mind is the gateway through which purpose is expressed, and if your thinking remains limited, it becomes difficult to step into the greater dimensions that God has prepared for your life. That is why every new level requires a renewed mindset, a way of thinking that aligns with possibility rather than limitation. Many people desire the next level, but they continue to think with the perspective of their previous season. They carry doubts formed by past disappointments, fears created by past failures, and insecurities that were shaped by difficult experiences. These internal barriers can become more restrictive than any external obstacle. When the mind is conditioned to expect limitation, it begins to interpret every opportunity through the lens of doubt. The result is hesitation. Hesitation delays action, and delay can cause someone to miss moments that were designed to move their life forward. A renewed mindset begins with the understanding that your identity is not defined by your past experiences or by the opinions of others. Your identity is rooted in the purpose that God has placed within you. When you begin to recognize this truth, it changes the way you view challenges, opportunities, and even yourself. Instead of seeing obstacles as confirmation that you cannot move forward, you begin to see them as situations that require faith, wisdom, and perseverance. Faith plays a central role in shifting the mindset toward a higher dimension. Faith is the ability to believe in possibilities that have not yet appeared in visible form. It allows you to step forward even when the path ahead is not fully clear. Without faith, the next level will always appear intimidating, because new levels often involve unfamiliar responsibilities and greater expectations. Faith creates the confidence to move beyond what feels comfortable and into what God has prepared. The next dimension of your life also requires the development of spiritual authority. Authority is not about control or dominance. It is about alignment with God's purpose and the confidence that comes from knowing that you are walking within His assignment for your life. When you understand your spiritual authority, you no longer allow fear, doubt, or external pressure to dictate your decisions. Instead, you move forward with clarity, knowing that your steps are guided by a higher direction. A renewed mindset also changes the way you interpret difficulty. Challenges will appear in every stage of life, including seasons of elevation. However, when your thinking has shifted, you no longer interpret difficulty as a signal to retreat. Instead, you begin to see challenges as opportunities to develop greater strength and wisdom. The very situations that once caused discouragement become moments where your faith is strengthened and your resilience is refined. Another important element of shifting your mindset is learning to release the weight of comparison. In today's world, it is easy to observe the progress of others and begin measuring your journey against their achievements. Comparison creates unnecessary pressure and distracts you from the unique path that God has designed specifically for you. Your journey has its own timeline, its own assignments, and its own moments of breakthrough. When your focus shifts away from comparison, you gain the freedom to grow according to the pace that aligns with your purpose. The next dimension also requires expanding your vision. Vision determines the direction of your thoughts and actions. If your vision is small, your efforts will remain confined within limited expectations. But when your vision expands, it begins to influence how you approach opportunities and how you respond to challenges. A larger vision encourages creativity, determination, and a willingness to explore possibilities that once seemed unreachable. Expanding your mindset often involves unlearning certain beliefs that were formed in earlier seasons of life. Some beliefs were shaped by environments that did not encourage growth. Others were influenced by experiences that created fear of failure. When you begin stepping into a new dimension, those old beliefs must be replaced with perspectives that align with faith, courage, and purpose. This process requires intentional reflection and a willingness to challenge assumptions that no longer serve your growth. The words you speak to yourself also play a powerful role in shaping your mindset. Internal dialogue influences the way you approach opportunities and how you respond to pressure. When your inner conversation is filled with doubt, it weakens your confidence and limits your willingness to take action. But when your thoughts are aligned with faith and possibility, they create a foundation of strength that supports your movement toward greater opportunities. Growth in mindset is often accompanied by growth in discipline. The next level requires habits that support the responsibilities that come with increased influence. Discipline in how you use your time, how you manage your energy, and how you pursue your goals becomes essential. These disciplines do not restrict your freedom. They create the structure that allows your potential to develop fully. There is also a deeper level of awareness that begins to develop when your mindset shifts. You start recognizing opportunities that you may have previously overlooked. Situations that once seemed ordinary begin to reveal hidden possibilities. Conversations become gateways to new connections, and small moments of faithfulness begin to lead toward larger outcomes. Your perspective becomes more attentive to the ways in which God is guiding your journey. The next dimension of life often requires courage to step beyond familiar environments. Familiarity can feel safe, but growth often occurs when you move into spaces that challenge your current abilities. A renewed mindset allows you to approach these moments with curiosity and confidence rather than fear. You begin to see new environments not as threats, but as opportunities for development and expansion. When your mindset begins to align with elevation, your actions naturally begin to reflect that transformation. You approach responsibilities with greater intention. You pursue opportunities with greater confidence. You develop the habit of thinking beyond immediate limitations and considering the larger purpose that your life is meant to fulfill. Your perspective toward failure also begins to change. Instead of interpreting failure as proof that you should stop, you begin to see it as feedback that guides your next decision. Every attempt provides insight, and every challenge reveals areas where growth is possible. This mindset allows you to remain persistent even when the path forward requires adjustment and learning. Spiritual growth also deepens as your mindset expands. Prayer becomes more than a request for help. It becomes a place of alignment where your thoughts, intentions, and vision are shaped by God's wisdom. The more your thinking aligns with divine purpose, the more clarity you gain about the direction of your journey. When the mind begins to embrace the possibilities that God has placed before you, fear gradually loses its influence. Confidence begins to replace hesitation, and purpose begins to guide your decisions with greater clarity. The transformation of mindset becomes the foundation upon which the next level of your life is built. There are moments in life when it feels as though invisible barriers are standing between you and the future you believe God has prepared for you. You may have the vision, the desire, and even the preparation, yet something seems to resist your progress. These barriers are not always physical or obvious. Sometimes they exist in the form of fear, doubt, discouragement, or spiritual resistance that quietly attempts to slow the momentum of your purpose. This is where the power of prayer becomes essential, because prayer has the ability to break limitations that human effort alone cannot overcome. Prayer is not merely a ritual or a routine spiritual activity. It is a powerful act of alignment between your spirit and the authority of God. When you pray with faith and conviction, you are not simply speaking words into the air. You are activating spiritual authority that shifts the atmosphere around your life. You are inviting divine power to intervene in situations that may seem immovable from a human perspective. Prayer creates a pathway through which God's influence enters the circumstances that surround you. Many people underestimate the impact that consistent prayer can have on the trajectory of their lives. They may pray occasionally when they feel overwhelmed or when they are facing a crisis, but they do not always recognize that prayer can be a strategic force that shapes their future. When prayer becomes intentional and persistent, it begins to dismantle barriers that once appeared permanent. Obstacles that once blocked your progress begin to lose their power as the spiritual atmosphere around your life shifts. One of the most powerful aspects of prayer is its ability to confront internal limitations. Sometimes the barriers that prevent growth are not external challenges, but internal struggles. Doubt can quietly whisper that your vision is too large. Fear can suggest that stepping forward will lead to disappointment. Past failures can create hesitation that weakens your confidence. Through prayer, these internal voices are confronted by the truth of God's promises, and your mindset begins to align with faith rather than fear. Prayer also has the ability to bring clarity into situations that once felt confusing. When you spend time in prayer, your thoughts begin to settle and your perspective begins to shift. What once felt overwhelming becomes more manageable as you gain insight into how to move forward. Decisions that once seemed uncertain begin to reveal clearer paths. This clarity often emerges not through dramatic events, but through the quiet understanding that grows as you continue seeking God's guidance. Another dimension of prayer involves breaking spiritual resistance. Throughout history, people of faith have understood that some challenges require more than natural solutions. There are moments when spiritual persistence becomes necessary to overcome opposition that seeks to delay or distract you from your purpose. Prayer becomes a declaration that you will not allow those forces to determine the direction of your life. Instead, you align your faith with God's authority and declare that the barriers standing before you will not remain. Atomic prayer represents a focused and powerful form of spiritual declaration. It is intentional, bold, and filled with expectation. Instead of praying with uncertainty, atomic prayer approaches God with confidence in His power and His willingness to intervene. It recognizes that God is not distant from the challenges you face, but actively involved in guiding your journey. When you pray with this level of faith, your words carry conviction and your spirit aligns with the authority that God has entrusted to you. Prayer also strengthens perseverance. When obstacles appear repeatedly, it can become tempting to retreat or lower your expectations. But prayer renews your inner strength and reminds you that your journey is supported by divine power. It restores the courage to continue moving forward even when circumstances appear resistant. Through prayer, you are reminded that God's plans are not limited by temporary challenges or unexpected setbacks. As prayer becomes a consistent part of your life, it also transforms the way you respond to pressure. Instead of reacting with anxiety or frustration, you begin to approach challenges with calm confidence. Prayer creates space for reflection and wisdom, allowing you to respond thoughtfully rather than impulsively. This shift in response often leads to better decisions and greater stability during moments of uncertainty. Prayer also invites divine intervention in ways that human effort alone cannot accomplish. There are situations where doors need to open, where connections need to form, and where circumstances need to align in ways that are beyond your control. Prayer creates the opportunity for God to orchestrate these moments. What once seemed impossible begins to move in unexpected ways as divine influence begins to shape the environment around you. Another powerful outcome of prayer is the strengthening of spiritual awareness. As you spend time communicating with God, your sensitivity to His guidance begins to increase. You become more aware of subtle impressions, wise counsel, and opportunities that align with your purpose. This awareness allows you to move through life with greater confidence, knowing that you are not navigating your journey alone. Prayer also cultivates humility. When you recognize that breakthroughs are not solely the result of your own strength, but are supported by God's power, it creates a deeper sense of gratitude and dependence on Him. This humility protects your heart from pride and keeps your focus centered on the purpose behind your progress rather than on personal recognition. As barriers begin to break through the power of prayer, new momentum begins to develop in your life. Opportunities that once seemed distant begin to appear closer than before. Relationships that support your purpose begin to form. Resources that seemed unavailable begin to emerge at the right moment. Each step forward becomes evidence that prayer is actively shaping the environment around your journey. The discipline of prayer also deepens your resilience. When you know that you can bring every challenge, every concern, and every vision before God, it reduces the weight of carrying everything alone. Prayer becomes a place where burdens are lifted, where strength is renewed, and where hope is restored. It reminds you that your journey is supported by a power greater than any obstacle you may encounter. As you continue praying with faith and intention, the limitations that once defined your boundaries begin to lose their influence. The fears that once held you back begin to fade. The doubts that once weakened your confidence begin to disappear. Through consistent prayer, the path before you becomes clearer, and the barriers that once seemed immovable begin to break under the authority of God's power. There comes a moment in every season of growth when preparation must give way to action. You may have spent time learning, developing, praying, and waiting for the right opportunity, but eventually the moment arrives when you must step forward with confidence. Stepping boldly into your next level is not about having every detail perfectly understood. It is about trusting that God has already prepared the path ahead and choosing to move forward with faith. Many people sense when a new season is approaching, yet hesitation often appears at the very threshold of opportunity. The mind begins to ask questions. What if I am not ready? What if things do not work out? What if the challenges are greater than I expected? These questions can create hesitation that delays progress. Yet the truth is that every level of growth involves stepping into territory that feels unfamiliar. Boldness is not the absence of uncertainty. It is the decision to move forward despite it. Confidence in this moment comes from understanding that your journey has never been random. Every lesson you learned, every challenge you overcame, and every moment where you continued moving forward despite difficulty has been preparing you for the season you are entering now. The experiences that once felt like obstacles were actually strengthening your ability to carry the responsibilities of the next level. When you step boldly into a new season, you begin to align your actions with the promises that God has placed over your life. Declaration becomes an important part of this alignment. When you declare that your elevation is confirmed, you are not speaking empty words. You are affirming your agreement with what God has already determined for your future. Declarations reinforce your faith and remind your mind that your journey is guided by divine purpose. There is a powerful transformation that occurs when someone moves from waiting to walking in confidence. Instead of constantly questioning whether the opportunity is real, you begin to approach it with expectation. Instead of shrinking back from responsibility, you begin to embrace the growth that comes with it. This shift in posture allows you to engage fully with the opportunities that appear before you. Bold steps often begin with decisions that may seem small at first. Saying yes to a responsibility that stretches your abilities, entering a new environment that challenges your comfort zone, or pursuing an opportunity that once felt beyond your reach are all examples of bold action. These moments may appear simple on the surface, but they represent a deeper transformation within your mindset and your faith. Stepping into the next level also requires trust in God's guidance. Trust does not mean that the path will always be easy or predictable. There will be moments where you must rely on faith rather than certainty. Yet each step taken with trust strengthens your confidence that God is directing your journey. The more you move forward, the more evidence you begin to see that the opportunities appearing in your life are aligned with a greater purpose. Another important aspect of stepping boldly is releasing the fear of failure. Fear can create hesitation that prevents action, but growth always involves learning through experience. Every attempt provides insight, every challenge reveals new strength, and every moment of perseverance builds resilience. When you release the fear of failure, you create space for progress and discovery. Stepping into your next level also involves recognizing the value of courage. Courage is the willingness to pursue purpose even when the outcome is not fully visible. It is the strength to move forward when your vision is larger than your current circumstances. Courage does not eliminate challenges, but it empowers you to face them with determination and faith. Your environment may also begin to shift as you step into a new dimension of life. Opportunities can bring you into new circles of influence, new relationships, and new responsibilities. These changes are often signs that growth is taking place. As your journey expands, your ability to adapt and learn becomes increasingly important. Remaining open to growth allows you to navigate these transitions with confidence. Boldness also involves recognizing that your purpose extends beyond personal success. When God elevates someone, it often creates opportunities to influence and support others. The progress you experience becomes a platform through which encouragement, leadership, and inspiration can reach people who are walking through their own seasons of growth. Another important part of stepping boldly is maintaining focus. As opportunities increase, distractions can also appear. Remaining focused on your purpose helps ensure that your energy is directed toward what truly matters. Focus allows you to invest your time, effort, and attention into the assignments that align with the vision God has placed within your life. Faith continues to play a central role as you move forward. Each step into the unknown strengthens your trust in God's provision and guidance. The more you walk in faith, the more you begin to see how God's timing, resources, and connections align to support your journey. Moments that once felt uncertain begin to reveal themselves as part of a carefully orchestrated path. Confidence also grows through gratitude. When you acknowledge the progress that has already taken place, it strengthens your awareness that God has been guiding your life all along. Gratitude reminds you that every opportunity, every lesson, and every breakthrough has contributed to the journey that is unfolding before you as you step forward with boldness. The declaration that your elevation is confirmed becomes more than a statement. It becomes a mindset that shapes how you approach every opportunity and challenge. Instead of wondering whether you belong in the next level, you begin to walk with the understanding that your presence there is part of God's plan. Your willingness to move forward creates momentum that carries your journey into new possibilities. Each step opens the door to another opportunity. Each decision leads to new connections, and each moment of faith reveals greater clarity about the direction of your life. The path ahead continues to unfold as you walk forward with courage, confidence, and the assurance that the season of elevation has already begun.